Ladies, welcome to this video. Coach Jerry here. Welcome. Today I got something cool for you. We're talking about dieting and why they fail most of the time. And when I'm talking about failing, because I do a talk with a lot of people telling me, hey, I did keto, I did low carb, I did vegan, and it works. And then they come to me and they say, I need to lose 10 kilos. And I said, how much did you lose with those diets? Well, I lost 8 kilos, but then I got back in 9. So the question is, did it really work, right? Because for me, it's like when something works, it works. Meaning like you actually not only lose the weight, but you keep it off for good. And I would say 99% of diets fail to the span of 3 weeks to probably 6 months at most, but fairly said, couple of years, right? And a year and a half after that you did a diet, usually like you would have gotten back the weight. And obviously most of the weight, if not more, right? And most of the time it's more. That's documented on things like the Biggest Losers as well, especially when the more they lose the weight, the more is the backlash of the weight regain. And today I want to talk about why chronically, when you do stuff like keto or low carb or Atkins of those kind of nutritions, when done chronically, why that probably will lead to insulin resistance, right? Insulin resistance or thyroid issues and all that type of stuff. Well, simply put, and I'm talking about chronically because that doesn't apply when, well, let's say that we are, you see all these results that we generated for all the ladies, and there is no one size fits all diet. Is all customized and is all optimized, right? The problem is that doesn't apply when I give you, let's say, a very low carb macronutrition for a couple of weeks to a couple of months. That doesn't apply. I'm talking about those, you know, low carb zealous, or those people that I like to call it the cult, or uh, they have almost, they're almost like a set of like those people that advocates low carb or carnivore, or um, eat as much fat as you want. You're not gonna gain any weight as long as you are eating fat and no carbs and those type of stuff. So that mentality might lead to insulin resistance. And again, it's physiological, it's scientific. We'll go into why. So let's start from why most of diet fail. There is really two reasons. Number one, the sustainability. Therefore, like you do something, you're not able to maintain it, right? You do something for a little bit and you're not able to maintain it because it's something that you're not able to do. Like you told not to eat carbs, you have 25 rules to follow, and as soon as you break one, it's almost like you do that for 5 days, and as you get day six and you break it and you throw everything outside out the window and you say, the mentality of normal people would just say, okay, I just messed up one day, let's just get back to track. Most people, the way they think is like, oh, I just messed up, might as well start another diet or might as well start over. Why do you have this mentality? It's simply because it's not sustainable, because you ate your life when you do that. And this is why when I hear people, it's like, they like veganism or paleo people or, Atkins. And I always say, if you're gonna do an Atkins diet, like, are you able, likewise, if you are in a Herbalife kind of thing, it's like, if, let's say, if you're gonna drink shake the whole time, right? Are you going to be able to do that for the rest of your life? Because if you are not, sooner or later, something is going to come up. And usually stuff like from your life. It's like, kids or the job, or because you get really, really hungry, right? Most diets fail for psychological reason, but for hunger as well, right? Then you're like, anyway, I cannot follow that. I'm gonna do that later down the line, or now I'm gonna try another diet. And what cracks me up is those people is like, they try low carb, it doesn't work. They try keto, it doesn't work, and then they try Atkins, which is the fucking same thing. It's like the only thing that really changes is like the amount of carb. They get smaller and smaller. I mean, if low carb doesn't work because you like carbs, right? Then how, why in the hell are you gonna do the same thing in another name? Just do something else. Try low fat, for instance. Try I don't know, vegan, whatever you want to try. Try intermittent fasting. Try something that is not the same thing, because or else it's gonna be the same results most times. Now, the second one, which is more interesting, but is also, like I just said it before, they fail for psychological reason, meaning like for your belief system. And not and most of the time would be like stuff like I'm really stressed, I deserve a treat. It's just gonna be a bite. The bite turns into 10 bites, and the 10 bites turn into the whole box. Or you're really mindlessly eating in front of the TV, and you don't realize the amount of calorie you're getting in. Or on top of that, it might be stuff like you're very much on the organic side, and you're like, I'm eating really, really healthy. How come I cannot eat 10 avocados and not lose weight? Well, because obviously they're even if it's healthy fat and it's full of fiber, still, if you hit overboard of your calorie, obviously it's not going to be sustainable. And again, it's just psychological. But this is more interesting what I'm going to say now. It's like they gave, because obviously diets is this idea, this cult that you have to restrict food, right? In fact, you need to somehow find a formula that allows you to restrict without feeling like you are in a diet. But they did a study, and they gave 20, we'll use number like 20 participants, like 10 and 10, but the number was different. But what they did, which was real, it was that they gave shakes, which was the same exact shake, 500 calorie shake, which I think it was a blend of macro like fat, protein, and carbs, the same thing, which it tells you that there is no, I mean, they're not doing anything different for anybody. But one side, like half of the participants, they were unlabeled, and they put a different label and saying one is going to be a fattening shake, the other one is going to be a kind of low calorie shake, meaning like to lose weight, which was the same thing, but they put labels on it, right? The people, they drink that, they start drinking that, and that was, I think, all they were allowed to eat throughout the day or drink. And they did it for about a time span, which I think it was 10 days or so. And they measured on the brain the wave, right? The wave. And the people that got labeled that it was a fat loss shake, they start producing ghrelin on the brain. Like they got, you can actually see the brain that signals that it's producing ghrelin, which is the hormone, hunger hormone, right? Which was then exactly same thing, right? So producing the hunger hormone, then obviously people by nature will get more hungry. But it was the same shake. And the other one didn't, because it was a fattening shake. They were thinking they were, drinking McDonald's or something, right? So the belief, or also whatever you allow yourself to feel in the moment, and you're like, okay, I'm really doing something restrictive, can mess up with the results. And this is usually why dieting, it becomes really hard, because of the belief system and the lack of ability for you to be able to understand whether or not you're getting results. And that could come into, like I said, everybody look at the weight all the time only, but the reality is that if I put you 10 kilo more and you 10 kilo less, it's not only about the 10 kilo. This side should look relatively different. If you just lost 5 kilo but you look the same with still the love handles or belly fat, and the only thing that you lost is actually water and muscle, eventually you're not going to be happy. Your physiology didn't change either, right? And then you're still hungry, and then you cannot sustain a diet still. But the fact that you don't know whether you're losing weight, and when you don't lose weight or you don't know how to track it, then you feel like you're failing, that's a problem, right? Let's say that you have a diet to follow and you don't know how to do it, because in the morning you're supposed to have a recipe, and then you have to get out really fast, and you don't know what to do when you're in a restaurant or when you're at work. That that get you to mess up. That tells you to that is not probably worth to do another diet, right? So all these things are the problem why people fail on the diet. Okay, and this is part of what we're gonna do in our seminar on Monday. I highly suggest Comment Carb Diet. I'm gonna send you over the invitation for the Zoom. We're gonna talk about why and how to optimize, because this is why that's why we still have a job ourselves as coaches, because otherwise we wouldn't, right? Because nowadays you can generate with AI a perfect meal plan. The problem is that people cannot follow it. They either can follow it and then they don't get results and they don't know what to do after, They either can follow it and then they get results that they don't know how to keep it, or they, and most of the time they cannot follow it, or most of the time they don't get results and then they don't know what to do next, right? This is why it's like you need to know what to do after a diet, during the diet, and how to stick to it. Now, the second part, which is also very interesting to me, which gonna lead into why I developed this. I mean, it's not that I developed the nutrition. The nutrition is been there. It's one of the many ways that you can actually lose weight and lose fat, in fact. But why am I building together some somewhat of a frame, of a framework that you can take and you can apply to yourself. Therefore, like when we do the fat loss part, which is like step two in our program, the metabolic acceleration, then we teach you how to do that with a sustainable method that when we move to number two and number three, number four, which is maintenance, then you know how to probably put in something more like carb cycling, or how to put in refeeds, or how to eat in a way that is sustainable not only for you but for your families, for when you go out, for when you have date nights, when you're with friends. Because realistically, it's like most of these diets like keto, low carb, and all that stuff, they're not socially friendly. Like sooner or later you will binge or break the diet because it's not socially friendly. And the worst part is like when you think that you are in keto but you're not really in ketosis, because you know real ketosis, you should urinate in some sort of like a stripes with a pH, those kind of stuff, and you should have the ketones present, right? For most people, they're never in ketones, and they lose weight because they lose water. And when they lose water, they probably feel a little bit lighter, they feel better for a while, but then they regain, right? Today, I want to talk about a more serious issue, though, is why those kind of nutrition protracted over time, they can lead to insulin resistance. Most people would say, and this is, sugar got really a bad reputation, but there is also this idea that carbs are the reason of insulin resistance. No, the insulin resistant reason is the combo of carb and fat, and usually elevation, chronically elevated calorie intake, meaning like you eat way too much. And those that have metabolic syndrome or insulin resistant, they also have belly fat most of the time, which is the direct cause why in fact you have more calorie than you need. Now, why can lead to insulin resistance is because, first and foremost, I mean, the insulin is on the bottom with the cortisol of the pyramid. You have to imagine the pyramid, the pyramid of cortisol and insulin, because sometimes insulin, it's elevated for stress, but it's not because something that you eat. Like my case, when I have an inverted cortisol curve, my insulin in the morning is through the roof because I have stress, not because of the food that you're eating or something bad necessarily, but the stress creates sugar from your muscle, and then the insulin gets elevated. A degree up, you have thyroid. Okay, so that's gonna mess up with the thyroid. But on top of that, glucose is necessary for for um, most of from T2 to 332 to kind of like the transformation of the thyroid hormones inside the liver. Glucose is necessary. So if you just take glucose off forever, that's going to be a problem, uh, which by nature it will lead to stuff like thyroid problem or insulin resistant. Also, you have to say that it's not very adhering, because by nature, you have to imagine, and I'm not gonna bore you with the chemistry of it, but you have three substrates. Your body can actually, in fact, the body can only operate with sugar, carbohydrates, or fat. But when you operate with carbohydrates, you give carbohydrates. It's like saying you have like the Krebs cycle. Is like saying like you have like one or two steps, and then you are like already you have the energy to move forward, right? That is the first energetic substrate. The fat, when broken down, can give you more energy because obviously it's higher in calorie, but it takes so much longer to break down. Now, if you remove carbs and you give your body fat, right? You're just training your metabolism to burn fat, to become a lipolytic metabolism. Like it's like saying you have to imagine a circle, and you have to imagine outside the circle is you and your body with all the fat around. The circle becomes more clear and it goes better, but you're not necessarily taking off the fat from your body. That happens if you are in a calorie deficit. Most people that do this kind of dieting, they are in a calorie surplus because they're eating a bunch of nuts, they eat a bunch of avocado, they feel like, they think like, okay, if I'm eating fat, I can eat as much as I want. I don't need to count the calorie. I don't need to even know what I'm eating, how much I'm eating, right? Which is the biggest problem ever, right? Now, when you teach your body, you can only teach your body to burn carb or to burn fat. When you teach your body to burn fat, it's gonna become a very good fat burner on burning the fat that you're eating, not the fat that you have stored in your body. The problem is that why the fuck would you want to eat fat to burn the fat that you're eating and not the fat that you have on your body? In order for you to burn the fat that you have in your body, whether you choose a carb approach or a fat approach, you need to be in a calorie deficit. Okay? And you need to find a way to be in that deficit either by moving more, either by exercising, either by sleeping better, either by stressing less, either by eating obviously less, right? That you should, in a way. So, again, if you teach your body to become a better fat burner, it doesn't mean like you're gonna burn the fat that you have on your body. You're gonna burn the fat that you're eating. And you have to think that if you don't eat carbs and you eat a bunch of protein and fat, you're eating a lot of fat, right? Now, going back one step, this is also why when you finally reintroduce the carbs, your body has lost the ability because, uh, like, you have to imagine the cells with all these receptors, the GLUT1 receptors, they were basically wiped off because they are not needed anymore because your body have learned now how to live without those. But when you get them back, it's almost like a window that doesn't open every time that the car comes. Instead of opening, it closes, and you generate resistance, and that generates then insulin resistance. And again, you by nature really gonna gain fat when you start eating carbs again. This is why you see this kind of issue. And if you don't damage enough, then you will probably have damage your your thyroid as well. This is why the very least, if you're gonna do some sort of temporary carb approach, low carb, you want to put refeeds in. Like it could be, we call it cheat meals or refeeds, or technically, like good calorie counting refeeds, meaning like you don't have to binge, but you have to put a carb reload or backloading and all that type of stuff. These things I'm gonna give you concrete examples inside the seminar. And in a nutshell, this is what it is. Like, it sounds crazy, but keto or low carb, not only they're not really sustainable, which brings back to problem number one, you're not really gonna sustain it. Like even if you get the results, if you lose 10 kilo of fat, unless you wanna eat like that for the rest of your life, then it's not gonna be sustainable. But they might create problem for real, meaning like when you're insulin resistant, then you see something on the blood that tells you you're insulin resistant, then you created a condition that it wasn't there before, should you have not listened to whatever you had outside. With this being said, you can skin a cat in 10 different ways. I mean, there are people getting results with keto. There are people, especially like clinical trials, like, people with, what is that condition? Like Caesars, right? Yeah, those kind of stuff. That's something with really low carb can be helpful. But if you just need to lose weight, especially if you need to lose a bunch of fucking weight, like 20, 30 kilos, don't, that's not necessary to do that. You might do, you probably will do a lot better with something like intermittent fasting or OMAD, or like one meal a day, whatever. For the fact that is like you'll do the less damage eating a burger a day and then the rest of the day fasting that doing low carb and or super organic, like super whatever, you know, really, really low starches kind of thing. With this being said, there is going to be a real framework inside our video on Monday, common carb diet. You'll see what that is. It's going to be really, really cool. And if you want to not only learn how to optimize on any diets, but specifically if you want to do that with us, I'm going to give an option inside that seminar to do it, whether you're a client already, and that's also an option, but also especially if you're not a client, you're going to have a chance to come in and do this kind of nutrition for 10 days, and from there see how it goes. Coach Jerry here. Talk to you soon. Hopefully you have a fantastic, fantastic weekend.